what if Bitcoin isn't just a new kind of money, but a whole new way of perceiving reality? In this episode of Bitcoin for Millennials, I'm joined by Monica Bravo. Her work weaves together art, ancestral wisdom, economics, and personal transformation.
When I studied Austrian economics, that was it. I was like, of course, money is subjective. If I know how to take care of my needs, I can give value to my needs. And if I give value to my needs, I'm going to have meaning in my life. That's it. This is 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. That's it.
If you are curious about how personal and collective patterns shape our approach to money, tech, and growth, then this episode is for you. If you find value in it, please like and subscribe here on YouTube or follow me on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. That will help me to reach more people and spread the message on Bitcoin even further. I appreciate your support. Now let's dive in. All right, Monica Bravo, welcome to Bitcoin for Millennials.
Hi, Bram. So happy to be here.
And to start, I thought let's just dive straight in because you've said Bitcoin is more than code or currency. It's a state of consciousness. And I just want to ask you, what does that actually mean for how we live and interact with money? Like, can you unpack this statement for us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So everything that I say and I do, I'm an artist, comes from my embodied experience. So when I came up with this sort of like line, it was when I finished my first book that I was writing a little bit about Bitcoin, and I had already done the rabbit hole studying it, and then I signed up for Austrian economics, and I did the whole seminar. And so I started realizing that for many, many years, I'm 61 years old, but for many, many years, there was something that I needed to embrace that will synthesize everything. I call myself a polymath because I'm very interested in many different subjects. Apart from the fact that I do art, I'm like philosophy, Eastern practices. Like my whole life has been about devouring knowledge, and then becoming it, practicing. So when I was trying to define what Bitcoin was, because some friends were like, "What's wrong with you? You went completely crazy. Now you're into this Bitcoin thing." Because I was telling them, trying to obviously orange pill everybody that I know. And then I was trying to use a word, and I said, it is a state of consciousness. And people are like, oh my God, you're really weird. Like instead of helping them, they were getting. And so what is consciousness? Consciousness is really I would say that's like the level 0 of everything. This is what we can see and perceive as God. This is like the base of everything. This is our state of awareness. So for me, Bitcoin became a clear state of awareness of my life. That was a missing part. I lived in New York 27 years, and I made a living. I still do as an artist. But over there, the rat race is so incredible that is like really exactly what we call the fiat world is over there. So when I stepped out of New York 5 years ago during the pandemic, quote unquote, I realized that I was living not in a dream, but I was living in a nightmare. And that's when I dove into the whole studies of what money was. And I realized that the most fundamental of all questions and how we're going to give value to ourselves was out of the equations. I can talk about Bitcoin and I can talk about my relationship to God in the same line. When you're in New York and you're in this kind of fiat world, you're not being authentic. You need to perform. You need to be a persona. You're a character, and you are every day performing more towards that thing that you want. Like that's why it's a rat race. You're just following this, I don't know, these guides. Like people tell you, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. And you start checking everything. And then deep inside, you're completely empty. And that's what started happening to me. I started feeling the emptiness when I crossed 40 years old. And I was like, why is my life so complete in many ways, but so empty in other ways? So the gap of the emptiness, and it's not the same emptiness as the Zen Buddhism that you're like, is everything. No, it's this like void where something is missing and you don't know what it is. And you meditate and you have the husband, you have the dog, and you have everything, but you don't have that thing that coheres everything, that makes sense. So that's why I think it was different for me, because I got to understand what was the purpose of my life through something so logical as Bitcoin. I mean, I could never imagine that I would go to study praxeology. I'm the most illogical person in the world. Like, I'm emotional and I'm like, but it was logic that brought me down and told me, hey, there is a lot to gain from something so logical as understanding that what you value in life is very subjective, and it's not going to be given to you and told. Nobody's going to tell you what to do it unless you don't do it. So yeah, it's different.
I think that's a great explainer. That kind of aligns with what I wanted to say. Isn't it that logic as the base layer that actually gives you the space to be more creative and explorative, etc.?
Because logic is a base that is like very abstract. It's a very abstract. And for instance, if we're going to talk about astrology in the beginning of the word is the star, is the logic, is the logos of the stars. So there's a sort of like a reasoning there that some things make sense. Where it gets a little bit doubtful is when people start saying, but why do you know this and that? Is because they're looking at the part where you're interpreting the mythology. And that's more subjective. That's more experience based. So we are human beings that were, this polarity, and we have a base that is very logical, which is very fundamental, but we cannot lead a life full of logic, because where is the emotional part? Where's the part that you actually feel and you become intuitive? So the interesting thing is that I have been mostly intuitive all my life. I didn't go to art school. I arrived to New York, 1994, and I was like, I'm going to skip school. People are like, how are you going to make it? I'm like, you'll see, I'll figure it out, because I always figure things out. And then because I didn't go to art school, I was never programmed. I was never like dogma that you see right now, all these like crazy woke people. Everybody went to school and have like, specializations in the artist of this, the artist of that. I was like, Van Gogh never went to do a PhD, like he just painted, and he was suffering, he was actually bringing something from inside. So I think that one thing that everybody thought that it was a liability that I didn't go to school, it was my biggest, and it is still my biggest asset, because I come from an embodied experience. I'm very much about experiencing and then coming to tell the story.
Would you say that then adopting a better money gives you a better anchor, in a sense, that you're not like voluntarily participating in a rat race, right? You're kind of like pushed into that. So the question is, do people do that in a conscious way? If you think that's downstream from the money, it's because of the money. But if you can adopt the harder money, the best money to ever exist, that actually allows you to, if you adopt that in a voluntary way, in a conscious way, that is kind of the direction that you then get pushed towards.
It is, if you're conscious about it. Again, if you're conscious about what money is. But if you don't know what money is and who's running the race, you're going to end up doing a lot of stuff against your will, unknowingly, unconsciously, because you want to get to that place. So you see, when you're in the art world, which is a big, big money laundering machine, you don't think about who's giving you money. So it's interesting. All these people come out of school, and they're all very radical, and they're all woke, and they all do, I'm not even going to talk about the kind of work that they do, but then they are getting paid, and they're getting promoted by the same people who are oppressing them. So they don't even know, they don't have a relationship with their own slavery. And what happened to me when I left New York, I escaped New York 5 years ago in July. This next week is 5 years I'm here in Miami. I realized that a lot of the questions that I didn't make myself, because they were, I don't know, uncomfortable questions. Where's the money coming from? Oh, it doesn't matter. They just bought me another piece. Oh, it doesn't matter, because you don't want to have those questions, because if you start having the questions, you stop playing the game. Mm-hmm. If freedom is important for you. Yeah. But if you want to be, because, we have you live in the continent of socialism, where everybody thinks that they should have like universal basic income. And, how many friends and how many Europeans I don't speak to anymore. Well, actually, they don't speak to me anymore because they think I lack compassion, because I'm thinking only about myself. And it's actually, I'm not thinking about myself. I'm taking care of myself, because I understand what money is. Because the value subjective thing, I think this is the thing that cracked my head when I studied Austrian economics. That was it. I was like, of course money is subjective. If I know how to take care of my needs, I can give value to my needs. And if I give value to my needs, I'm going to have meaning in my life. That's it. This is 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. That's it.
Bitcoin custody is evolving, and OnRamp is leading this change with multi-institution custody, eliminating single points of failure. Instead of relying on one institution, OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a cold storage multi-sig vault backed by 3 independent custodians, where no single party can move your funds alone, providing an unprecedented level of security. Your assets are protected by a 100 million Lloyd's of London insurance policy, with all transactions fully auditable on-chain and only executed at your direction. This means complete transparency and control over your assets at all times. Beyond custody, OnRamp provides comprehensive Bitcoin services that include trading, lending, inheritance planning, and IRAs. You can view them as your private Bitcoin banking partner tailored to your wealth preservation goals. Whether you're new to Bitcoin or an experienced holder, OnRamp's approach helps you secure your generational wealth with unmatched security and peace of mind. You can sign up at onrampbitcoin.com and use code BRAM, that's BRAM, to receive $150 in Bitcoin after your first deposit. If you first want to learn more, you can also book a free consultation via their website to speak with one of their Bitcoin custody experts. Tell them you came through me, and they'll take extra good care of you. I love that. Yes. And so that is in essence what is being taken from the people, right? When they are forced to adopt a money that they cannot control, that there's a tiny group of people that actually controls it, that don't care logically about your individual prosperity, right? So would you say it's also kind of about escaping a certain, you talk about this a lot, right? Like tuning into certain frequency or resonance, vibration. Like if you are forced to be in a rat race and you're not conscious about it, then you will always be operating in, at a certain level of resonance. And once you step out of that, the people that are still in there, they won't recognize you, or they go against you, or you go against them, right? But how do you personally try to make sense of what is real? I have to say real for you, what is noise, what actually matters? Like, how do you pick the bits and pieces and put it together for yourself? How do you go about that in this
so I've been, day and age? I've had I have a long time been practicing, like retreating myself from the spaces and been meditating for almost 30 years of my life. So I do need retreat every day, even if it's 1 hour or 15 minutes, or doing things for myself. It's very important. It's very important to have my own space where I don't think, I don't do anything. I'm just breathing. And those moments are the most important, because these are the moments where I get all the ahas. Especially as an artist, I need to have time and space where I don't see noise, where I don't, like, if you come and tell me, oh, read this book, I'm like, the people who know me very well don't recommend me anything, because I'll ask for it if I need, but because I have a very perceptive mind, and everything, I am always open, like a big antenna. So I am picking up a lot of stuff. So I kind of close channels and I only focus on what I want. So for me, focusing on myself and my breathing and my body and my food and my health, like I've never had health insurance, because I don't believe in paying for something that is probably going to happen in the future. So that means if it's probably going to happen, maybe I'm going to make it happen, because maybe I have an insurance, and maybe it should be great if I break a leg. Why? Because I have insurance. You see, a lot of people start thinking like that. And it was funny because in New York, for instance, when the horrible person called Obama became a president, he gave us all the possibility of having health insurance. Everybody was going crazy with it. Everybody was like, oh, you should be happy. And I remember once I was kicked out of one dinner because I said, oh, I'm not going to get that Obamacare. Why? And I said, because it's stupid. We're not in a socialist country. Like, what is it? And so people were very upset. And I remember that I did call my accountant then, and I said, how much is the fine so I get out of the health insurance? What are you talking about? I said, I don't want to be part of this. So I always have this kind of awareness that there was something bigger that was not that it was running the world, but it was not going to give me the freedom that I want, because I want to be free. And you ask me, what is freedom? I will say it's having more than two options. So since I was little, Mom, I want this and I want that. Why? Because I want to have that option. And so all my life, I have pursued ways to get more than one option. But when I was in the art world, there were certain decisions that I was making that, at a certain point that I realized if I keep on going this way, I'm not going to be free. So that's why leaving New York 2020 was like, if I don't leave now, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in this city. And I hate dying in New York. From all the most filthy places in the world, that's the last place where I want to go, die along with the rats, I don't want that. So, yeah, so it was a very big, and the joke is like, had I known that I was going to lose all my friends, the way I did, I would have left before. Because there were people who you were talking about resonance. So we're talking about, so when you are like tuning into a wavelength, like let's see, you and me right now, we're tuned into the same frequency of Bitcoin, because we're talking about Bitcoin and we're talking about how important it is, about money. So we're actually giving ourselves it's a language. We're in the same channel. We can, sit, like kind of tune into certain things, compare certain things, but we're talking about something that is very important for you and is very important for me and is very important for the people that are listening to us. Now, if Bitcoin doesn't say anything and it's not in your frequency, then this is pure noise for them. This is pure noise. So my aim is always to kind of tuning what I really want, because the right people are going to appear at the right time. And by just interacting, I'm going to be kind of like in the right place.
Yeah. I think before you can actually do that, right, you have to kind of realize that the boundaries that you think exist or that other people find normal, that they are basically all made up, right, by other people. And as long as you do not consciously think about, what do I actually think of this thing that I am doing, then you will never really run into that boundary, if that makes sense, right? Because you kind of like stay away from that. Like you said before, like if you ask a difficult question about money, or what you said, like you didn't want to go towards the question, what is money? What is this money that these people are giving me, right? Like you're doing that because, just having the resistance makes you do that, basically, right? Like that is very...
The moment that you confront something, and this is very millennial, like when you confront something that probably gives you fear, at the very beginning, it's like, I don't want to do it. But then once you're in it, you realize that the fear was bigger than what it was. And then
Yes.
the fear is a trigger that actually shows you the way to go somewhere else and to evolve. Because we only evolve through tension. We don't evolve, as I say always jokingly, under the disco ball. Maybe you're too young to understand that joke, but it's like the disco ball. Like you don't evolve. You're just like having a good time. So sometimes in life, and if you look at your life back, the moments where there was tension, the moments where there was a crisis, which is a moment you have to make a decision, those are the moments that you realize, oh my God, this was not that good, but at the very end, I made the right decision, and this is where I am right now. So when you are so pampered, and our world is such, I don't know how to explain, like these people live, and I used to be there, that's why I can speak about it. These people live under this world that there's nothing outside of that. They're so disconnected from reality.
Art, you mean, right?
Oh my God, the artist is like, and contemporary art, it's like they are so clueless. And sometimes I think and I go, wow, they're intelligent people here. And then I go like, are they really intelligent? Like I was thinking like, where's their intelligence? Because they probably, I don't know, 3 months ago, a very good friend, artist, she had stopped speaking to me because of COVID, Millet, my social media, Donald Trump, like she basically just like unfollowed me. And I noticed that. And I was like, oh, but I kind of knew that she was doing it because she's very socialist. She's born in a very socialist family from Chile. So anyway, I didn't talk to her for a long time. And then around April this year, she texts me and she says, I've been thinking about you. How are you doing? And I'm like, are you okay? You're writing to me because you kind of canceled me 2 years ago. 2 years ago. She's like, no, I really want to know, like, how did you know? And I'm like, what are you talking about? How did you know? And I said, about what? She goes, how do you know how the world works? And I was like, wow, she's asking because she already saw that I got out of it and she wants to know, but she has the awareness to ask. So I said, look, by a coincidence in this life, like, I'm going to be in New York next week just for a day. Let's go and have lunch if you really want to talk. We had a really profound conversation, and she said to me, I canceled you because I love you so much that I didn't want to hate you. But man, like, I could hate you for everything that you're writing. But I want to know, what is it? And I said, maybe I was like this all the time, but I never showed it. Maybe I never spoke about politics before because I never cared. Maybe I didn't, but maybe I was like this all the time already. So that was interesting because we did have a dialogue. She asked many questions about how did I find out. So I told her a little bit about Bitcoin. Then she took out her phone. She says, I had Bitcoin. And then she opens whatever coin. She has all the shit coins but Bitcoin. And I said, all right, okay, fine. And I said, okay. But I didn't try to say, no, that's not a good one, because we're in such a different frequency that what mattered that day was like she was approaching me to find out what it was. But her interest was like just curiosity. She was not really saying, I want to learn. So I already know that I'm not going to waste 1 minute of my life on somebody who's just like poking me. I'm not.
I do find it very interesting and maybe also a bit courageous that she did reach out, right?
Yes.
Because I think, especially like nowadays, a lot of people, I always say the people that call themselves progressive aren't really that progressive, which I find very interesting. Yes. They are very... this is what Balaji Srinivasan also talks about. Like, everything is going in reverse. Everything is like backwards. Like the progressive people don't want change, and how to say the
conservative
people actually are doing things, which is just really interesting, right? It's nice because I wanted to ask you a question. I think this is a great way to highlight that. Like, what was for you, like, the first moment you realized that, kind of like the boundaries or the ways we think the world works, or the paradigm that we're in, that is just all made up by other people, and that you didn't really had an idea about what you thought of all these things, and then kind of like started on your own journey?
So there was like a discontent since I was like in the 25 years ago. I started feeling like, am I a fake? Like, I used to ask myself a question like, am I faking it? No, it's okay. Maybe I'm going through a thing, and then I keep on doing my stuff, and I'll say like, oh my God, I'm faking this, because there was this discontent inside of myself all the time, because I will be performing again. Everything was great, sales, exhibitions here, that it was all a performance, but deep inside there was so much. It's not even sadness. It was like, dude, this is fake. Yeah, I know, but. And like, what do you mean, but you can do better than this? But then it took me a while to kind of like take all that world that I have constructed and let it kind of fall down. So the first thing that fell down completely was my marriage of 20 years. And so once I did that, and this is interesting because it's the first time I hear about Bitcoin. It's a friend of mine, 2013. She says, Monica, this is gold. She literally said like that. And I said, I can't right now. I can't. I'm trying to figure out how to leave my marriage. I can't. Like, I literally said, I can't. I need to focus. We had business together. It was so entangled, everything. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to do this. So I kind of like lost a few years there, because I ended up getting the divorce, and I went through a very deep depression because I didn't know who I was as an identity anymore. When you spend time with somebody in a place like New York, you lose your identity, because part of your identity is you're an artist, and the other one, you're the wife. And then you have this unit identity where you're like together and you do all these things. But deep inside, I had not taken care of myself, even though I was a meditator and doing I was doing stuff, but there was like, this is not okay. So I, in a very heroic Monica fashion, I let it all go down the hill. I'm like, let's touch the base of things and just go down, down. And that's 2016, 17. I really was in a very dark place. I wanted the darkness. I wanted to go and see what it is, because I thought if I don't confront it, I will never know what it is that I'm missing. So, but it took some years, because once you get down there or wherever that is, it's like I realize I have to really be honest to myself and start building from zero. I could not lie to myself. So that was the big difference. And so fast forward, I started kind of undoing a lot of stuff when I was in New York. Like I closed my studio. I had a very large studio with many assistants. I started kind of like downgrading without knowing that I was basically saying goodbye to New York in a couple of years. So 2020 came, and I already knew I was going to leave 2019, but I had no idea where to. But I'm very perceptive. Again, I get a lot of information in my meditations, in my dreams. And so I called my landlord and I said, can I just not sign the lease for a year? This is November 2019. And he's a very funny guy. He goes, what do you know that I don't know? And I'm like, oh, come on, and he said, oh, you've been such a good tenant. So why don't you do 6 months until March 2020, and then you can just be month by month. When they closed the borders and it was official, it was COVID, he called me. He goes, I asked you the other time, do you know anything? And I said, I only know that I have something bigger inside of me. It always tells me what to do. So I left within a month and a half. I decided to come to Miami. It was a dream that told me to come to Miami. So when I came here, I remember arriving to Miami. Nobody wants to see me because everybody's wearing that, the thing on the face. And I thought, oh, isn't this wonderful? I have all the time in the world for me. I had just landed 2 very big jobs. And so I said, I have 2 years to make this job, because I do public art. So it takes years to make this thing. So I said, I'm just going to have time for myself where I don't need to see anybody. I don't need to see anybody. And that's when I started studying. But it was between COVID, between my marriage breaking, between being completely, I don't know, broken by myself. It was not the system. It was like, I don't like this. So it took a while, and it took a lot of courage to kind of say, okay, let's find another way. I didn't come to Miami knowing that I was going to make it. I just came because this was the best place to be at that moment.
If you want to self-custody your Bitcoin stack, I recommend the Blockstream Jade Plus. I've been using this premium Bitcoin-only hardware wallet for a few months now, and I love its design and ease of use. What makes it stand out is its open source hardware and software, and Blockstream's unique genuine check, which makes sure that your device is authentic. No backdoors or compromises. You can connect with the Jade Plus however you want: Bluetooth, USB-C, or you can go fully air-gapped with its built-in camera for cable-free QR transactions. The metal case feels solid and the color screen is easy to read, and it connects with your favorite Bitcoin apps like Blockstream Green, Sparrow, and Electrum. Get your Jade Plus today at store.blockstream.com and use code Bram to get 10% of your entire order. Let's talk about something that not a lot of people think about before it's too late. Where are you storing your Bitcoin seed words? Are they truly secure? I found my solution with StampSeed. It's an elegant all-in-one titanium plate solution with no separate pieces to lose or manage. Your seed phrase gets permanently stamped into pure titanium that withstands fire, survives water, and lasts for generations. Unlike shallow etching methods, StampSeed's patented tools help you to deeply stamp every letter for permanent readability, protecting your financial legacy. When you order a titanium seed plate from StampSeed, you can also upload a custom design or your logo to customize the back of your plate to make it fully personalized. Paper seed phrases are a disaster waiting to happen. Secure your Bitcoin with StampSeed for decades to come. Visit stampseed.com and use code BRAM, that's BRAM, to get 15% off your order. I like that. Well, I used the word performing, but you're using it too, and I really like that. It is, for me, that ties into not knowing what you're doing until you realize what you're doing, and then you figure out I'm doing something that I don't really agree with, right?
Yeah.
I've had a similar experience, and I've talked to a lot of people that also have, like, whatever it is, it just, at that moment, it clicks like, okay, I'm doing something that I don't really agree with. Plus, I don't really understand why I'm doing it. Okay, stop, please. Okay, this is going to be the point that I press pause, basically, right? And when we eventually tie that in, I think also to money, because you just also mentioned, Austrian economics gave you a deeper understanding of money, and free will is a big part, and human action is a big part of Austrian economics. And all the principles in the world don't really matter if you don't do it from your own personal
100%.
accountability, right?
100%.
So when you are performing, you're not doing it for yourself eventually. And I like that you use lived experience. I think that is the being accountable part, right? Okay, I'm doing it from that experience. How did finding out about this money part help you then to continue this journey? Because I can imagine that must have been like an extra new shift.
It was so let's go back a little bit, like 2018, 19. I have a friend, no longer friend, that he said to me one day, give me your phone. And because he was always saying he didn't have money, like 2017, and he was also an artist and very talented, but he had to work for other people and he hated his job and always complaining. I was always rolling my eyes like, do whatever you like the most so you stop complaining. And so one day he stopped saying that he didn't have any money, and I said, do you have any secret that I don't know? Because I saw, and he said, yeah, I put I don't know, put 20,000 into Bitcoin. I think it was 2017 or something like that. He basically made a lot of money. And then he said, I'm going to become an artist right now, full time and everything. And then I said, oh, so this is the second time I hear the Bitcoin thing from my other friend. And I said, how do I do that? And he said, give me your phone. He downloaded Coinbase. And he says, how much? And I said, let's put 1,000. But then I kind of like forgot about it. And then one day I opened it, I was like, not bad. But then I didn't know anything about it. And I kept on like buying whatever. Shitcoin moment, buying whatever here and there. And one day I thought, not long after, I thought, what's the purpose of putting money into a place, not knowing what I'm doing? It's easier if I take the money from the bank account and I open the toilet and I flash it. Because it's ridiculous. If I know how much my time is worth because I'm a freelancer. So I am very good at making very good deals for myself. And I always been working for myself. And so I write contracts. Like I know how to take care of myself in that sense. But I was thinking, why am I throwing it away? And so I decided to look for, I started listening to podcasts and reading about it. But still, there was something I didn't get. There was the part, especially like more like the technical part. I was like, but where are these coins? Something like that. But who has them? Somebody's cheating. Like I couldn't. And so I think at one point I was like, so I was still studying astrology and working. I remember asking the teacher I had, and he was receiving Bitcoin. I said, why don't we investigate Bitcoin in like a, I don't know, astrological way? And he says, no. I want to do only astrology. So I started thinking, wouldn't it be great if I find an astrologer that knows about Bitcoin? Within 2 weeks, I found a millennial, but it was a coincidence that one of those things that happen, like there are what Carl Jung called synchronicity moments. Somebody was asking for something in a group, Facebook, and I knew the answer, and I said, but I was walking. So I look at somebody texts me and says, do you know about blah, blah, blah? And I said, yeah, look for this guy. And so I sent it. And then she sent me back and she says, which of these podcasts? And I said, no, this guy doesn't have a podcast. She said, yeah, but he's a guest here. And I said, but then listen to him. And then I thought, what is this podcast? So I started listening to the podcast. He was a guest. And then the guy, within the first 10 seconds, he said something Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I signed up for his Patreon, but I was not interested in learning astrology with him. And he had one of those groups where if you pay $500, he will give me the thing. And I'm like, oh no, this is not what I want. Not that I don't want to pay, but like he's making it sound that he's the only person that knows, and it's almost like but then I learned that his girlfriend was teaching and she had groups. And so I signed up for her class, not cheap at all, but I was very good at those classes, very good. They were all in Europe. I was here in the United States, and we will have class 2-3 times a week. I was always asking questions. And that's when I started reading. Like, that's when I read the Bitcoin Standard. I read the Jeff Booth book. Like, I started really getting into it. But I still did not understand really the whole spectrum. Because I think, and this is one thing I always say to people that are Bitcoiners, like, until you don't study Austrian economics, you're halfway through it. Because I think that Austrian economics gives you really the principles of what is needed in a society to use Bitcoin as a hard money. Other than that, and I think all libertarians that are in, Mises Institute, they should be Bitcoining, like they're perfect for one another. So it was 2021, I think, where my brain went like, and I said to myself, I'm going to take as long as I can understanding Bitcoin and studying it like completely. This is not a race of like, I'm going to do a course and then the next week I'm an expert. No, it's a slow process. So that's when I started studying, and it changed everything.
I think it's interesting that there are many people that do understand the problem that we have with the current financial system and the money. Like the libertarian people and the Austrian people, but not everyone sees the solution that is Bitcoin, right? In a maybe a core sense about Austrian economics, they talk a lot about this human action, free will. How do you look at how that intersects with money? Because the money that we use, right? Like I can buy your painting, and you say, okay, this is XYZ, this amount of dollar units, and I say yes or no, or I do a counter offer or whatever, and we shake hands, and basically we did that as two free people. We made this agreement, right? But then the reward that we use to give to you in this exchange is controlled by other people. And this, for me, was a big moment when I realized, okay, so we could have the perception that we are having, a free conversation and a free exchange and an agreement, etc. But there's this third party that influences the actual technology we use to exchange the value, and that really opened my mind. And I wonder how you look at that when you connect just the concept of free will, being free, autonomy, etc., but with using money that is controlled by other people.
I mean, right now, how I feel is very different from how I felt, because before there was no awareness. There was this thing as like money comes and money goes, and there's this middleman, which is the galleries or whoever is in the intermediary. And so it was always like a magical thing. So it was kind of magical money. Like it's interesting. People think that Bitcoin is magical money, but actually fiat is magical money, because fiat is fake. It's fake. And so
it says on the bill, it says,
yes,
literally, there's a text on the bill that actually tells you.
Fake. And we think, oh no, my God, you're like doing magic money. I was like, oh no, this is the only good money. This is the only one that has really value. So for me right now, because I have the knowledge, a lot of it has to do with human action and the principle that you have to act upon it. I say these things, Bitcoin is a code, right? It's a syntax. This is grammar. It exists somewhere. Now we know where it is. Before I didn't know where the coins were, but it exists in another realm. It is there. But the interesting thing about it is that when you connect to it in terms of like how you give value to it, you're already making it personal. You're making a decision of, you're going to value this over that. So this is where opportunity cost on the margin arises, because every decision that you make in your life is an economical decision. All of them, even if you don't spend, if you move everything that you have in your house, everything is revolving around this idea that you have made a choice and you prefer this before you preferring this. So for me, it is really back to accountability, to say, okay, I am going to be conscious about making this decision instead of this one. And basically what really solved everything for me was low time preference. Low time preference, like, oh my God, I've been living in reverse of my life. I was high time preference, like really,
well, New York. That's New York.
Yes.
You can blame New York.
Yeah, but it was because you had to perform. So you have to go out. You're always going for dinner. You buy new shoes. I mean, I can tell you, like when I was packing everything to come here, I was like, why do I have so much clothes? how many jackets can I have? Like, and I still like, I have very good clothes, and like, I will buy, I don't buy as much. I really don't buy as I used to spend. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it consciously. So I understand it's a decision I'm making, but I always compare everything to Satoshi's because I have the calculator here. So I go, okay, if I'm going to do this instead of that, I'm going to be having less Satoshis. So right now, that's the measure for me. It's like, can I forfeit this right now and wait for the future to have that? Or is it something that I really need? Or is it a want? Or what kind of desire is this? So it has made me even more responsible of my life. So responsibility, accountability is the major.
What I absolutely love is that we should show more people that this is what Bitcoin does to you. This is, I think, in a way, the connection to being more conscious, right? Like, what am I spending my money on? What am I valuing? What am I communicating to either myself or others or my family or whoever is in my circle, right? Just being more conscious about that, because of course also the money ties in with your time and energy that you spend to acquire it, etc. Right? I think this is really the core that we should tell other people, because the main argument of Keynesian people is, yeah, but if you have money that increases in purchasing power over time, the economy will slow down and this and that, right? Like people won't blindly spend anymore. But this, what you just said, is the argument against that, right? And that's, I think, also the more like spiritual battle that is going on. Like, should you think in a way where you experience yourself being conscious about all the actions that you take, your human actions, or would you rather be guided by other external forces that push you in a certain direction and basically tell you what to do without you being conscious about what you're actually doing, which I think is the theme kind of that we're talking about.
And I think one of the things that it was crucial for me was a moment. So I did the seminar with Saifuddin of the Austrian economics, like the principles of economics, when he got his book out. And I'm the kind of person that when I'm studying, either you love me or you hate me, because I ask all the questions all the time. And sometimes I don't understand, so I'm raising my hand, please. And I remember the first question I asked in the first seminar. I said, he never uses the word praxeology, which is very interesting. He explains it without using the word. So I'm very psychological. So I'm like, da, 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 da. So he's explaining the logical way of making a decision. That what we're talking about, the conscious decision of making this over that. In my very psychological mind, because I've done Jungian psychology for since I was 9 years old, is started thinking. I remember I raised my hand and said, I have a question. He goes, yes. And I said, so what is the difference between this and I didn't know it was called praxeology and psychology. And I remember he went to the page and he goes, maybe you should read about praxeology. And I was like, okay. So it took me a while reading a lot of the context of that, what Mrs. have written about it, because we are, like human beings, we have a side that is very unconscious and we have another side that is very logical. So the whole purpose, for instance, of Carl Jung is that you confront your fears, you confront those triggers, and then you can reveal what is in your unconscious, like the knee-jerk movement that is more like a habit. All the artists in New York are being an artist because of habit. They don't want to question anything, because if you shake the boat, you might drown, right? So for me, it was interesting. I said, oh my God, I spent all this life going into the unconscious, and now what I need is something extremely logical to ground me. That's why I say Bitcoin completely gave me this synthesis, because I was very much high on the intuition and the color and the thing, all the psychedelia, but I was not grounded. And so for me, human action is like put your feet on the ground and touch the ground and feel it, like touch grass, and see that if you do this or that, that decision is going to alter your life for better or for worse. So I was like, and that for me was, and I always tell Saifuddin, his love for us, Austrian economics, I mean, he transmitted that love to me, and I love Austrian economics. It's like, I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Isn't it funny that by all these different choices, you ended up saying just that?
It's like, I can see my mom, that she's no longer here, saying like, what happened to you? I always ask you to be logical. And I was like, logic, that's stupid. And my mom, she was like, oh, okay, because I was very like, Mom, let me be logical. So no. Yeah, so I needed.
You just mentioned Bitcoin is a syntax, or has a syntax. It's a protocol. It's like language or math. So we have that, which could be a certain anchor for certain people, right? Like just understanding it in a logical way, why it's anti-fragile, etc. Why something like a protocol, basically something that is a concept,
yes,
for perfectly engineered money, just that fact makes you realize that Bitcoin can never die in any form.
Yeah.
That is, of course, like one approach how you can get into Bitcoin. I think we've talked a bit about that, but we've talked more about, okay, what did it do for you? Like, how did it help you become more conscious, or, really be in that lived experience? So when did you, from just learning and studying, took it into more like the way of living, or like being able to save in Bitcoin, and perhaps be more positive about the future, and have really live the long or the low time preference?
So this was interesting. So I read the books, right? And I understand low time preference, and it stays with me. This is before I even take the class with Sepidi, and I'm still with this woman. And then all of a sudden she says that she's going to teach us trading, and my eyes went like this. And I was like, okay, so here it goes. The gambling starts. And no offense, I mean, I don't know if she's ever going to listen to this, but it's like, that's not my choice. So I was like, I'm not here for that. And I started asking everybody in the class, it's like, okay, is anybody reading anything? Like, we used to have a group, and I will bring like, I just heard this, I just read this, and always bringing stuff. And people very receptive. They were receiving but not giving. And I was tired of doing that. And I thought, I need a community. So this is a moment where I knew that Bitcoin had done something to me. I live 2 blocks away from the convention center, Miami. And I knew Miami 23 was coming. And because this was still 22, and I thought, is there any way that I can volunteer just to be a fly on the wall? Like, I want to go to a conference, but I want to be behind the scenes to see if these people are really, really crazy. And
Bitcoin conference, you mean?
Yes. But if I am volunteer, like if I'm working there, I can hear more than if I go and pay the ticket and I sit down. I'm actually going to be behind the wall. So I found out how to volunteer. I told a couple of friends, and they're like, are you okay, Monica? I never volunteered in my life. I've never been to a protest. I'm like, it's all about me. I'm very me, right? And I said, this means that Bitcoin is something for me, because if I am willing to give 3 days of my life without getting paid, it means that I'm curious. So I went to the conference. I volunteered. It was a very big conference. So I was like, okay. But I got to know people, and saw that there was something very fantastic about it. There was like the energy, but I didn't know, maybe it's Miami. I don't know. So I thought, I need to go to another conference. So I volunteered into the Pacific Bitcoin in October. And then I said, maybe I should go to the next one. So I started volunteering. And by the 5th one, I had already made very good friends, because obviously you start speaking and everything. So it became a little bit of a family. I'm not very cozy to a lot of people. I have good friends, but I'm not going, in tour with big people. No, I'm not. But I started to see that I would have never been able to meet such an amazing group of people if it hadn't been for Bitcoin. Because I would have never meet these people in any part in New York or here in Miami. I would have never, even in the beach, I don't know where these people were. So it was like we were all tuned into this frequency. And this frequency was a frequency that I was asking myself to be. It's like, I want to be in a place where I am valued and I can value my life. Because I realized that Miami had given me such a big potential to be free. because I was no longer in New York. I was still working as an artist, but under my own terms. I was super free to go to the beach every day, and I was free to study as many hours as I wanted, like, and to try to do whatever I wanted, because I didn't have to perform, to go to the dinners, to go to the openings, to talk to this person, networking. Oh my God, I'm so allergic to that word, because that's one thing you did in New York. You spent half of your life networking, trying to get that other job. I don't have to do that anymore, because the time that I have free is more to investigate why this beautiful thing makes all the sense in the world. So it was a moment that I realized, okay, I have to embody it. And so volunteer was one of the things. Then getting into my more classes and talking about it. And I discovered my first Bitcoin, that curriculum that they did in El Salvador. And so I decided to convince some of my friends in Colombia, women mostly, like asking questions like, do you have a separate bank account from your husband or from your boyfriend, whatever? No. Okay, you should, and you should learn this. So you have to give me 12 hours of your life. You have to be accountable for those 12 hours. You're going to pay me very little money. You're going to put it in here. Actually, you're going to pay me in Bitcoin, but I don't have Bitcoin. Well, I'll teach you. So you pay me in Bitcoin. And so I started teaching people, not orange peeling people. And so I started enjoying it. And so I had the curriculum, and little by little, I started being very curious about how would my life be if I make Bitcoin probably the center of my life, which is right now. It is the center of my life. I speak about Bitcoin every day. Every day, even if I'm doing artwork. I just finished a big piece in the University of Washington, and we're installing. I mean, that's woke central, University of Washington. My God, so I arrive and I'm like, oh shit, we're in woke central. Everybody looking at me. I'm like, come on, guys, it's a joke. Not really, but so we're all minute 3. I'm already talking about the one Bitcoiner that is installing. And we're talking about economics, and we're talking about socialism and everything. And the director of everything is like, they were very scared of me, because I was like, nah, because I can get very passionate. And I'm like, I'm not going to kill anybody. But it's so interesting. And I said, I wonder, this is a new building in Seattle. And it's in the same building as Boeing has. Actually, Boeing gave money to this building. It's engineering. It's a school of engineering, and I did a huge piece there. Took 2 years. When I was installing, I turned around this is April, to the installer, and I said, I wonder if those stupid protesters are going to come here and destroy my work. And he says, why do you always speak like this about these people? And I said, because these people are lost. 3 weeks later, my work was on the news. They tried to get into the building. They didn't, because it was closed, but my work got almost destroyed. So it was very interesting. And they called me again. They says, how do you know this was going to happen? And I said, look, you don't need to be a magician. It's like when money doesn't work, you know what's going to happen. You know, these idiots are going to do that, because what I'm amazed with a lot of protesters and people on the left is that they are the most pro-violence people I've met in my life. They just want violence. And as you said, they're progressive, but they're like actually in reverse, because they're the people they don't know how to be civilized. They have no idea what civilization is.
I wonder what you think of this, but last week or 2 weeks ago, I had a big realization listening to a podcast with Matthias Di Stefano. I don't know.
Yes,
if you know that.
I know Matthias, yes.
Yeah. And so he was talking about, and I think you all agree with this basically, right? But if you think about the universal laws and, polarity, he says like there is no manifestation, there is no reality without the polarity existing, right?
Yes.
Like the positive and the negative. So there is no light without dark, there is no good without evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the pure nature of reality is that there are always positive energy and positive forces, and there are always negative forces. And some people are drawn to the creative positive forces, right? And some people are drawn to the negative, chaotic or the destructive forces. And that is just what it is. Like you when you are aware of that it works like that, you can be very annoyed with these what we would say are idiots, not seeing the future, not moving towards the future, actually being very anti-progressive and stuff like that. but he said something really great. And I wonder what your thought is, but he said, you wouldn't be as productive or as much of a builder as you are if these people wouldn't exist, because they create the incentive for you to actually change something, right? And you don't need a lot of people to work together to actually change something. And there will always be people that don't want change. They want the chaos, they thrive on that energy, which is just, again, it's not even an opinion or something. He made me realize that is just how it works. So even when we talk about this, what you just shared, or when we talk about the bigger idea of what Bitcoin could bring, the more profound impact that Bitcoin could bring, you see that there is a lot of trust that is breaking down, right, in money and institutions, and even reality. What is real?
So interesting thing. Matthias is somebody that I watched when he came about. There was a channel, this 2020, and he's the first person that I actually listened to in terms of like defining what dimensions are. And it's very interesting because dimensions, we think of dimensions as they're actually like a locale, because actually the word etymologically means like it's a place that you can measure, but it is a framework. It's not really a locale and a place, but it's a state of awareness. So when I say that Bitcoin is a state of consciousness, it's because there's a part of me that is becoming in tune with the awareness of the full awareness of Bitcoin, not just as this syntax, this grammar, this code, but as the potential and how I relate to it. That's another dimension. And then when I start embodying and I buy Bitcoin and I use Bitcoin and we become Bitcoin, then you're in another dimension. So the dimensions are not outside of ourselves. You don't go high, you don't go low. It's like different ways that you can reconnect in yourself through your own state of awareness. So the first dimension is the grounding. It's like gravity. We all have a set, like if you've done some meditations with the chakras, we have the like the root chakra, or like when you say touch grass, this is like the first dimension. This is when you realize that you are human. And there's gravity, there's materiality that bounds you to this earth. Now, when you go to the second dimension or the second framework, you understand that things are dual, because we are electromagnetic people. Feel like everything that vibrates is electromagnetism here, right? And so, but in the second dimension, what rules is our instinct. So you look at the cat or you look at the dog or whatever, the ego, whatever, like taking care of themselves. It's not their brain that is making sure, it's their instincts. And we do have the same. We have it here, the last part, this side of the brain. But it's still very knee-jerk. It's like a lot of people respond with their instinct. Now, the third dimension, where we are, this is the place of human action. This is the place of free will. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to make a choice. And the fourth dimension, and again, they're not separate. They're different layers of the cake. You know those cakes, so they have different colors. So we have this. So the part of the cake that has the fourth dimension is the emotional one. And this is a very tricky one, because our emotions are memories that are embedded in our body that make us remember things that they were pleasant or unpleasant that we keep kind of like constrained, and that what is trauma. We're not going to go in there, but that's where it is. So being emotional is actually really good if you know how to respond to those triggers, like fear or anger or sadness. But if you are still like owned by the emotions, if you're still part of the blob of the emotion, then you're going to move like all those animals that are moving around. So that's the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension is where Bitcoin, astrology, and all the logos exist as grammar. Like all the things that we study, Austrian economics, everything is there. You can study. It's like going to a book, to a bookstore and getting the books out and say, oh, look, this book about this or that is there. But the book alone is nothing. Bitcoin alone is nothing. Bitcoin needs you to start relating to it. That's the next dimension. That's the sixth dimension. This is, I'm going to have a relationship with the book, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to come here and we're going to ask questions. And so we're going to have a relationship. And in those relationships is where we find some things that are in in accordance or things that are not in accordance. And that's harmonics, right? We find each other in different parts of the wave, and sometimes we are in agreement in a dialogue, or sometimes I go, Bram, I don't think so, and you say, but hear me out, and then maybe a third thing appears and you go, oh my God, I didn't think about that. That's the seventh dimension, when you actually see the architecture of everything emerging as something new. And the last of there are 12 dimensions, but I'm going to speak only about the eighth one. Is what Federico Fagin, that I think I sent you the note. He's a physicist that talks about consciousness. He says that this is really the state of God, like where you become aware that you are the observer of your life. This is pure quantum mechanics, and you are aware of that duality. You're aware of your thinking. You're aware of your emotional body. This is a dimension. It's not that you're higher or lower. It's just like you have that awareness. Now,
Yes.
the last one is what the Zen and the Taoists call Wu Ji, or nothing. This is everything. There's no nothing. So Matthias did a whole thing about dimensions, and that's where I started really thinking a lot about it in 2020. So he's asked a lot of times about this negative, positive, but before even going to the other person, you have to see yourself as this duality, because you have that in yourself all the
Yes.
time as well.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I've once written down after a ceremony, you are the infinite consciousness experiencing yourself in the now forever, basically, right?
Beautiful.
That is, I think,
Yes.
what you just said.
Yes.
So it's and but like I can say that now, I can know, or this is my lived experience. Like I think that is the truth. But the duality exists in operating in the physical world, right? So that.
So I'm gonna say something, because may I say something about your chart?
Yes.
Okay. You're here. I mean, you're here for many things, but one of the things you are here, like direction of your life, is to create a balance between what is ideas, like what are the ideas that you love, but also to embody them. And that's the major challenge that you have in your life, is to actually start trusting. You have a super analytical mind, and you're very grounded because of it, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. You have many planets in Virgo, and so you're analytical and you give value to that, and you're very like meticulous about certain things. But the chance and the opportunity you have in this life, and you're going to have it in many different ways, is to actually trust that embodied experience, because that's going to be your wisdom. Because the day you die, you don't want to say he read 100,000 books. You want them to say, wow, that guy really lived a life. He kind of like embraced it. So you're here embracing it. And there are many aspects in your chart, but part of it is that, because that's going to open up whatever, let's say the word trauma, or whatever limitation you feel that it could be creatively, that you really want to expand, because you really want to expand. But sometimes you want to be solid, and you're a little bit more like, no, let's think about it. So I don't know how much of your mind is always going, and then when you actually jump, you're like, holy shit. But then you go, okay, I'm going to land. So it's a little bit of that I see in your chart.
Yeah, I love that. So thank you for sharing. And for context, like I send you my details, and you made a life chart for me, and I mean that is super recognizable what you just said, and that ties in, I think, to what I wanted to say, is that I really experienced that. So I experienced the knowing, like not from the studying, but by experiencing it, and knowing that there is a certain truth that I adhere to, and that I also from time to time really experience that if you give yourself to that, you can be the vehicle for any manifestation,
Yes.
in this plane. And I've definitely experienced that, but it goes like up and down, right? And so that's what I wanted to mention. Like, you can know it, but doing it is actually the whole life experience, wouldn't you say?
And what I think it happens to you, maybe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that sometimes there are difficult situations, the one that give you breakthroughs, because you have your chart is full of the harmonics in your life are there's certain aspects. So you have like if the planets are together, they're married. Oh, I love you, I love you. So they become potent. And when they're like in 180 degrees, they're like either or. And so there's always this tridal balance. But when you have an angle, it's called 150 degrees. It's a blind spot. It's like when you're driving in the highway and you don't see the car coming. So a lot of these events that happen to you and they kind of like move you into your direction are things that you were not expecting. They come and they go boom, and you go. So in a way, it's not that you're going to have a lot of them, but every time that this happened, they're always like a gift that you gave yourself in this life, so you can actually go, okay, this is the way. And they're going to take you outside of that comfort zone that you want. That we all want comfort zone, and you are very, I don't know how connected you are with your family, your ancestry and something like that, but there's a part of yourself that is very much attached to that. And the direction of your life is to actually be a leader in what you have to do. But it's not that you're going to be, what's the name of that tale where you're like singing and all the rats are coming, you're not that kind of leader.
Yeah.
No. You don't need to. You're just going to own it. Like your leadership comes from like you being you.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah. I think that resonates a lot. And maybe that ties into what I also wanted to ask you is, so how, if Bitcoin is like this mind virus and it's like a 1-by-1 conversion, people getting in touch with Bitcoin through different touch points, looking at it from different dimensions, going on this personal journey of eventually being, I'd say more, experience more autonomy, being more conscious, etc. How does that tie into like a broader paradigm shift? Like how do we get as many people as possible?
I'm going to break your bubble. I'm going to break your bubble.
That's just a question.
Yeah, I'm going to break it. But this is the thing. I do a lot of charts of Bitcoiners, and I'm very interested in something. I'm very interested in trying to understand what is it about Bitcoin that rings a bell, or is a frequency that other Bitcoiners tune into. What is it about it? Yeah, it's the money part, and yes, it's the freedom part, and yes, it's the human action. Yeah. We can always say, oh, because it's so crazy. But there's something very much about cellular memory, and you gotta, like, I believe in past lives, and I believe that we come here to remembering stuff. And so there's a cellular memory from ancient times where we actually misused power in general, humanity. And when we saw Bitcoin, we recognized that we have another opportunity in this life, and that's where millennials come into place. We have an incredible opportunity in this lifetime to repair. That's why Bitcoin fixes it. I don't like when it's said like that, but it does make sense. It's like you see the potential of rebuilding a society that is not nonviolent, that is collaborative, that is innovative. You actually see the principles there. You go, wow, why aren't anybody else doing that? Like, it's just like when everybody starts thinking like, what on earth is going on? Why is fiat so wrong? But it's not about quantity. And knowing astrologically where we are, 2025 it's not going to be worse or better than 2020, but it's as pivotal as 2020. And we are living the fourth turning, and we already see it. I mean, I don't care about any politician, whatever. I just laugh so much because it's another performance, right? But what is happening right now is that the people who are actually going to be in tune with it, they're going to get along. They're going to come, even in the last minute. They're going to come. They're going to help rebuild. But not everybody is made like that. You see, what are we going to do with all the woke Marxists that are going to vote for that guy in New York? I mean, why am I even going to waste 1 minute on them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where other people call me lack of compassion. It's like, no, it's not. Because you see, with human action, you have to make a step towards wanting to have a better life. You have to get out of the jail because it's mental.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be awakened. You have to listen to something, go, oh my God, you have to go down that rabbit hole.
I say that Bitcoin is a mirror in that sense.
Yes.
If you get out, right, and
Yes.
you adopt this parallel money, and you start at least attempting to live that, you know, that's what, how you resonate. That's what other people see with regards to you. And I think the longer Bitcoin survives, the more clear it becomes that there is a difference in the lived life experience of either the people that are still stuck and angry in the fiat money system, and you know, the people that are nihilistic about the future, that don't want to have kids because they don't, you know, they cannot afford it, or, you know, all these things. And then on the other side, these people from all walks of life that have found and adopted Bitcoin and are trying to live it in their own way, and they are actually more positive, right? And they are excited about the future. And like, so I think that also helps. But I do think that takes a long time, you know,
Because-
just as with your friend who reached
Yeah.
out back to you and be like, hey, what is this thing? You know, like how are you thinking? And
But you know what is the difference? Is the level of awareness that you're willing to have in order to see and recognize that where you're at could be a better place. It's awareness. It's just like you put light. And you go, oh my God, I didn't know this. But you have to move. You see, for instance, I say, people said to me, oh, you're so lucky you moved to Miami. I said, I don't believe in luck. You know why I don't believe in luck? Because there's no good or bad luck. There's good and bad decisions. So I made a good decision coming here. I wanted to lower the cost of living. I mean, New York is like, oh my God, you need so much money there. And so I lowered so much, I couldn't believe it. 5 minutes away from the beach. Oh my God, like, I mean, everything changed. And I said, I just changed my like the perception of my life, the perspective completely shifted. And then that's why I saw Bitcoin, because if I had been in New York, I would have never found it, Bitcoin. Never. Because you're so much like, I don't know, like the atmosphere is noise.
I would add the word apparently.
Yeah.
Because you can only look back, right? Well, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
A right decision.
I mean, and it was, no, but for me, it was a good decision. If I 5 years this week. And so if I compare where I was and where I am and where I'm going, because I already have plans of where I'm going, and it's all like Bitcoin related. It's just giving me so many incentives of keep on teaching, keep on reading, keep on learning, keep on writing. I'm writing a second book right now. It's all about value. It's just so important, value, that I say, you know, it's a whole architecture of how to get into the sense of value, and spoken from very different perspectives. And so I can write this and inspire other people to do that or not. It doesn't matter. But I find that when you're creative, and we're all creators, by the way, when you create something, like you have a podcast that's very creative, when you actually move towards something, you are changing the world.
Yes.
Your heart.
So for millennials,
yes,
that feel that there is something going on, you know, the financial odds are stacked against them. They, you know, see that the path they thought they would have, just like their parents and grandparents, is not really existing. What would you say to them? Like, what's the first step or opening that you would suggest for, yeah, kind of reclaiming back that agency and feeling of freedom? And yeah, does Bitcoin play any role in that, or is it totally something else?
Well, I met a lot of millennials. I would say that most of my friends are millennials right now. And I understand the anguish and anxiety that your generation could feel, like you're the last in the boat, like you missed the train, there's this sense of like, what the hell, you know, like we're supposed to do this, especially like the younger ones, 1983, 84, 85, like they actually did everything under the books. I mean, you and people even younger, they're already like, oh, okay, we can adapt. So it's a question of like honesty. And when I speak to them, because I do have a lot of friends and I do a lot of readings, and they come to me and I go like, keep on going and keep on asking questions, keep on, like, don't get satisfied with what they're giving you. If they say the universal basic income is it, try to find out why it works and why it doesn't. You cannot just accept that this is because the government is telling you that they're going to take care of you. You have to trust that. You have to ask questions. So I said, stay awake by asking questions. And then I always end up saying, I do a lot of Instagram, and I love Instagram because there's a lot of woke people there. So there's a posted there, they come. And I like to come in and just comment. And I met so many new people. They go, I love your comment. You were the only crazy one saying the truth. So because I always speak about Austrian economics. So there was this guy, what's the name of this Greek economist,
Varoufakis, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. He was, there's this person, he was saying that he had, this clip almost made me, he said that there should be, the new money should be this thing that the government give you, like a wallet. He used the word wallet. A wallet, and then that wallet, they give you money and everything. And I'm like, is he talking about blockchain? What is he talking about? So I said, this is bullshit. I didn't use that word. I said, this is bollocks. This is like not true because this and this and this and this and this. So I got so many people against me, like, what are you talking about? And so, okay, long story short, 3 days of me going back and forth, which I love. Then I have somebody writes me a very long millennial. He says, I can't believe that I discovered you. I'm going to Substack and you're writing about this. You make so much sense. And so we've been having conversation on Zoom, and from, I don't know, like 20 of those things that I post, always kind of showing, read the creature from Jekyll Island, read Seyfeddian's fiat money, fiat standard. I always suggest, and some people say, how do I get them? And so I've been doing this, but very actively, in a way that say, you have to be curious, you have to read it, you have to ask questions. I'm not going to give them to you.
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin is an asymmetric opportunity based on publicly available information. That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
but you have to do it. You have to
act upon it.
Yes,
one thing that I did a talk in adopting Bitcoin last November, where I was going to say, when Saylor says that that Satoshi is Prometheus, I said that's not true. I said it's not true because Satoshi is nowhere to be found. And so he's more like in the realm of the gods. And I say that Bitcoin is Prometheus because Bitcoin, you see, Prometheus gave us fire because fire is the initial energy that we need in order to create. It's human action. Fire is human action, like you act. So Bitcoin is the only thing that can be like Prometheus. But you have to act upon it. Like you have to light your fire to go towards where you want. If you're waiting for people to give you something, you're always going to end up at the end of the line getting second best, third best, So you got to, when people ask me, I remember when I met Efra, that she's like, how do you get your stuff? And I said, I always ask. I go, can I have this? Can I have that? I always ask for what I want. And I get it because you have to say, I want this. You have to move towards that.
It's maybe that ties back a bit to the beginning, but I think once I realized that, we talked about being the spiritual being, right? Basically being the eternal awareness. You have this meat experience, right? You have the human reality experience. But yes, you are a creator. I love that you said that, right? But only if you choose to do so in a conscious way, right? Like, so you can have all these creative ideas and ideas come to you. I think every person is an idea person in a sense that, just thoughts of things to do, things to make, or whatever, they come to them, right? But in essence, well, I believe that this all comes from the universal consciousness. So basically, all the ideas are true in essence, information-wise, right? So they are good ideas, but only if you do something with it, right? And even something as what we would maybe define as a stupid idea. This is my joke always, like Kentucky Fried Chicken is a fucking stupid idea. But there was this one guy who was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And then he created this Kentucky Fried Chicken thing. And I think once you realize that you have to get out, in one sense, you have to get out of the way with your ego, which actually ties in with just do it, right? Like what you said about the resistance. It's like, oh, should I do this? I don't really know. No, you should just do it and
Just
do
do
that
it.
like one time. And then afterwards you realize that you have to do it every time you feel the resistance because the reward is on the other side, right? So like the whole ego mind thing has to get out of the way. But I think, and I've also experienced that, like, then you realize that you can be that creator, but the challenge is in actually wanting to do it. And I love how you just tie that also in with Bitcoin. Like all that information is there.
Yeah.
Also about the problem that you experience before you study that the solution that we think is Bitcoin. But you have to do it, or else
you
you
have
will
to do
stay
it.
a subject. Yeah.
When I was finishing my first book, I had a co-editor, and I said, I want to finish with a swoosh. Just do it, Nike. I wanted to finish the book.
Yeah.
And she said, no, I found out this is a copyright. This is like a patent. I was like, fuck. So I was just going to say, just do it. But then she said, no, because this is, and I said, oh God, but I really wanted to do swoosh. Like if you get it, just fucking do it. Just do it. Like I never thought I was going to write a book. I just did, and I'm writing another one. And who cares? Like you just have to go and jump and live and see for yourself what's the meaning of life. You got to tell your story. You don't want to have somebody else writing your story wrong. It's like I don't want to give that power to anybody.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and maybe this is your answer to my closing question, because I want to ask you, and I ask everyone the same question. So throughout everything, is there one core belief or value that you hold on to, no matter how much the world, money with Bitcoin, or even your own understanding or frameworks for reality might change? Like, is there any core belief that you always take?
Like my blog is called I'm Optimist. I was born an optimist. And this ties back to the question that you were talking about, Matthias. It's like, no matter how hard things are, no matter how dark they look, no matter how difficult they may be, I take always a deep breath, and I always close my eyes. And my mom passed away 2 years ago, but my dad passed away when I was 8. I closed my eyes and I said, guys, please help me here. And there's always a solution. So I really go back and I say, help me find a way. Help me find the light to this, because I know that this can be done. And if I don't know how to do it, show me the way. And so I don't give up. But I don't give up. I don't want to live this life to the minimum. It's to maximum. I'm very hungry for life. So it's my appreciation of life. At the same time, I'm very childlike. Like I'm goofy and I like to make jokes. So I think that life should be treated in a fun way as well, because we already have to see so many tragedies. And so it's, have fun, enjoy, be optimistic, and just try. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I always say, what's the worst that could happen? Is that we're going to die. But that's going to happen anyway. Right?
I love it. Yes.
Let's do it.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And I hope people listening do too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you can click here to find more just like it, and click here to find all Bitcoin for Millennials podcast episodes. Also, please like this video if you want to help shine a light on the message of Bitcoin, and subscribe to my channel to stay connected. I hope to see you for a next episode. Bye.